What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to our final conference championship prediction video for today. We'll do the other two group of five conferences that I haven't done yet. They will come out tomorrow. But today, I wanted to talk about all the Power Four conferences. This is our last one. It's the Clemson Tigers in the SMU Mustangs. Clemson is back towards the top of the ACC, back in an ACC championship game, and they are looking to knock off the SMU Mustangs as an underdog. SMU, their first season in the ACC, one of the great stories in college football this year, and they are this close to cementing themselves into the college football playoff. They may still even get in with a loss, something we'll talk about in a video later, but this should be an exciting game. You have the newcomer coming from not only just new into the conference, coming from a group of five conference looking to knock off one of the conference's mainstays in Clemson. We'll tell you everything you need to know about the Tigers and Ponies here in just a little bit, but before we do that, you guys know I got to say thank you for all the love and support this channel has received, continue to receive. It means the world to me. If you'd like to continue to support the channel, you haven't done so yet, just interact with it in any way you can. Liking, commenting, sharing are all very simple things, but the biggest two ways to help support my channel are, one, hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell so you don't miss an upload, and you should especially do so if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, and just kicking back, sitting back, or kicking out, sitting back, relaxing, whatever it is you want to say, however the saying goes. Then just watching this video, that helps support my channel in a big way as well. I appreciate everything you guys do for me and my channel. You can go give me a follow on social media platforms at Tailgate829 if you want to support me further. But other than that, let's dive on into this game right here. Clemson and SMU. I think this is going to be an absolutely tremendous battle. I think it's going to be a very, very fun game. And let's take a look at how this one is going to go down from Charlotte, North Carolina. In order to preview this video, though, all of you fine people have to understand how I do so. So we're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. We are first going to look at the Clemson offense against this SMU defense, and then we will flip it. We'll take a look at SMU's offense against Clemson's defense at the end of the video. We'll go through some final keys to the game, some final thoughts, how I think this one is going to play out. And then, at the end of the day, a prediction and a score for who I think comes away as an ACC champion. If Clemson wins this one, the playoff conversation gets really interesting. However, if it is the favorite in the SMU Mustangs, I mean, man, what a story that would be here. So these two teams did not play in the regular season. So I'm going to kind of, and it's been a while since we've talked about Clemson, and it's been a little bit since we've talked about SMU on the channel. So let me just remind all you fine people what these two teams have done this year. For the Clemson Tigers, Cade Klubnik, I don't think is being talked about in a national light as well as he should be, because that was the big question for him. Is he going to take that next step towards becoming the quarterback everyone thinks that he can be? And I'm happy to say this year that, yeah, he did. 3,041 yards, 29 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. He's been phenomenal for Clemson this year and has found some really, really good wide receivers to throw to. Antonio Williams, the sophomore, leading the way with 788 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's the main threat in this wide receiver room. But Bryant Wesco has also been a very good option. TJ Moore has been a really reliable weapon for Clemson so far this season. Briningstool, the tight end, has been another very effective weapon. Stellato, kind of a depth piece wide receiver. Turner, Randall, all those guys have at least 15 catches. Phil Maffa out of the backfield is also a very reliable runner. 1,078 yards and 8 touchdowns. And yes, you just heard me read off Cade Klubnik's passing stats. He's got 437 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns this season as well. So he can affect the game in both ways, and it's why Clemson's offense is as good as it's been this year. Garrett Riley has really kind of settled into his role as the Clemson offensive coordinator. Cade Klubnik has really emerged as a great quarterback this year. Phil Maffa, as we all previously knew, is an exceptional running back. And Clemson is sitting right here back in the ACC championship game because this offense has exploded this year. The passing attack, over 275 yards per game, right on the cusp. The rushing attack, over 175 rushing yards per game, just above 190. This is an offense that can beat you in any way that it wants to. It can beat you with the pass. It can beat you with the run. And it is really, really something to behold when this Clemson offense is clicking. Now, I say when this Clemson offense is clicking because there have been a lot of points throughout the back half year up until that Louisville game. That Clemson offense was humming. Ever since then, it is yet to eclipse over 30 points against an FBS team. It scored 51 in the game against the Citadel, but it hasn't really clicked as well as it did earlier this season. If Clemson is going to win this game, the Tiger offense that is explosive, that can spread you out, where Phil Moffitt is running well, where Cade Klubnik is hitting his shots, that's the offense that Clemson needs here. And this one, especially with how suspect their offensive line can be and with how good this SMU pass rush is. What a story the SMU Mustangs have been. First year in a power conference, and they're in the conference championship game. I mean, that is amazing for this SMU team that defensively, again, provides a ton of pressure, and it comes from everywhere. Sack leader Isaiah Smith has been a workhorse for them. He is tied with a guy by the name of Jafari Harvey. You have other guys like Roberts and Harrison Hunt, as well as your leading tackler and linebacker, really the leader on this defense, the senior in Kobe Wilson. All of those guys have been phenomenal. This defense is an interception machine. 51 passes defended, 15 of the 21 turnovers forced have been picks. They don't allow much on the ground at all. 31.3% is all they're allowing opponents to convert on third down. They haven't necessarily faced the schedule that Clemson has, but SMU does have a road win over Louisville. They have a win over Duke. They have a win over Pitt. They have some other pretty solid wins under their belt, only loss being to BYU, a team that's going to finish inside the top 25. Now, this run defense, you look, and that I think is going to be the matchup to watch, right? Phil Moffitt and this Clemson offensive line, that's how Clemson rolls. They establish that run game with Phil Moffitt, and then Cade Klubnik hitting his passes. Well, that's just something else that you have to game plan for this offense. But Phil Moffitt is that lead offensive player, and this SMU run defense has been absolutely superb. These defensive linemen, a lot of those that I just mentioned outside of the linebacker in Wilson, all are on the defensive front, and they not only can get into the backfield and the run game, but I should say they can not only get in the backfield and rush the passer, they can get in the backfield, force some TFLs, and affect the run game as well. That's the matchup to watch, and that's the matchup that I think is huge for either of these teams to win. Clemson's got to get that offensive push. SMU has got to get that defensive push. Now, when you are Clemson, grind away and converting on your money downs and converting on your third downs, I think is going to be a really, really big key here for this team. SMU has been playing some really good football down the stretch. They've especially been super, super aggressive defensively, and SMU is just one of those teams in the country right now that is firing on all cylinders. But if we get the Clemson offense that is hitting their shots, and Cade Klubnik is dynamic, and Phil Moffitt is still running well, the offensive line is getting pushed. This Clemson team as a whole this year has not turned the football over. And if that continues into this game, that's going to get the SMU defense on its heels. But I think you're going to have to grind away. You're going to have to win that physicality battle on the line of scrimmage. But let's take a look at that SMU pass defense. Very, very suspect, allowing over 230 yards per game. So even though, yes, it's important for Phil Moffitt in this ground game to get going, that's why you need the offense where Clemson and Cade Klubnik are hitting their shots and creating deep plays with the pass game, because it's where SMU is really susceptible on the defensive side. Let's talk about the SMU offense, because Kevin Jennings, man, he's got this offense firing on every single cylinder possible. 2,746 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 picks. Interceptions, a little bit of a concern for him, but he took over for Preston Stone after Preston just started to not really look like the quarterback that he was last year, not really providing everything that SMU wanted in the offense. Enter Kevin Jennings. He has done absolutely phenomenally, and this is very much so a wide receiver by committee room. Quick count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers slash tight end slash running backs. I'll just say pass catchers. 8 pass catchers have at least 250 yards this year, and no one is over 500 yards except one person, and that is going to be the likes of Roderick Daniels Jr. Very, very close to 500 is Keyshawn Smith. But other than that, no one else is even over the 400 mark. Daniels and Smith are both right around the 500 mark. It's a wide receiver by committee room. It is a passing attack where Kevin Jennings loves to spread the football to everybody, but he's got one ace up his sleeve, and it's the guy standing next to him in the backfield in Brashard Smith. How electric has he been this year? 193 carries, 1,157 yards, and 14 touchdowns. The man has been an absolute monster for the SMU offense this season. Now, you take a look at some of those SMU offensive numbers, very comparable to Clemson. Clemson does have the edge in the numbers department, but SMU, nearly 450 yards per game. They're doing it through the air. They're doing it on the ground. But you kind of get the sense that against this Clemson defense, which has not been that great in a lot of aspects this year. This is a run defense that's one of the worst in the conference, a pass defense that is suspect, but they force turnovers and they generate sacks. And the Clemson defense, with the way the Clemson offense has been sputtering and kind of stagnant, it has really picked up the pace. It has really picked up the slack. I would love to see the numbers over their past 4 or 5 games or something like that. You take that game out of Louisville, or I should say you start with the game against Louisville. Every game beyond that, the defense has been really, really good. It was even good in the game against South Carolina. It just came up a couple plays short. The Clemson defense is going to have to pick it up, but Kevin Jennings might have to pick it up as well. I fully believe that this is a Clemson defense that is a whole lot better than their statistics may advertise. And that's why I think Kevin Jennings, it just seems like he's been in cruise control, and his cruise control is phenomenal. His cruise control is at like 1,500 RPM. It's nothing. He might have to kick that up a little bit. He might have to get into the 2,000 RPM, maybe the 2,500, and rev that motor a little bit and show some things against Clemson that we haven't seen SMU run at all this year. But this Tiger run defense, I talked about it, is suspect. It is one of the worst in the entire conference. I realize that defense is misspelled there, so I'm going to fix that. There you go. That's a little bit better. Hey, that's how you spell defense, kids, not the F then the E then the F. Sorry about that. But this Tiger run defense is very, very suspect, and I think it's very susceptible to big plays that Brashard Smith can rip off. And even Kevin Jennings on the ground, let's not forget about him now. 344 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. He has a long of 59. He can rip off the big run as well. A guy that's kind of sat back there, kind of been forgotten a little bit within this SMU offense, is a guy by the name of LJ Johnson. He's still a really darn good talent. Has got 277 yards rushing, has 5 rushing touchdowns. They do like to use him. They may have to in this game. The Clemson pass defense has got a lot of great secondary members. They have a lot of great talent up front, but this is a Tiger team as a whole that can be pretty suspect defensively. Again, I think they've been playing pretty well down the stretch of the season, but SMU has everything they need to be able to take advantage of that. The one thing, though, that SMU cannot do in this game, and it has plagued them in a lot of games this year, it has almost cost them in a couple of games this year to the point where they may not even be in this position, are turnovers. They have 19 turnovers on the season. Clemson has forced 23 turnovers this year. I will tell you how they have done that here in just a little bit. But turnovers can literally turn the tide for the Clemson Tigers here. If we get the Clemson offense that is sputtering and stagnant, and Cade Klubnik is not hitting his shots, and Phil Moffitt is not running that well, the Clemson defense has to bring their A game, and they're going to have to force some turnovers. And if this is a Clemson offense that is clicking on all cylinders, and SMU can't do a thing to stop it, but the Clemson defense can't really stop what SMU is throwing at them either, a turnover is going to go a long, long, long way. 14 interceptions and 9 fumbles recovered. That is the turnover breakdown for this Clemson team. Clemson probably lost out on their shot to get an at-large bid from the college football playoff with that loss to South Carolina last week, meaning they're going to be relying on winning the ACC championship game to get their spot. That's the only way that Clemson can get in. And I think Clemson can do it. I just think there are way too many questions. I think SMU is playing some really good football right now. I question if this Clemson defense is going to be able to slow down everything that SMU is going to be able to throw at them, especially that of Brashard Smith, especially when this run defense has been very inconsistent so far this year. I question what offense we are going to get out of Clemson, because down the stretch this year, it has been the version of Clemson that can't move the football on a consistent basis and can't get a consistent rhythm going, and that is going to hurt them. Kevin Jennings has this team playing really, really well. This is an SMU team that does everything you want it to do and then a little bit more. Defensively, they get pressure, they force turnovers, they have a phenomenal run defense. The only way for Clemson to really beat that is Cade Klubnik is going to have himself quite a day. And I just think SMU is going to be able to outmuscle Clemson in this game. I know that sounds really weird to say because you're used to Clemson being physical and the team with the bigger players and the better players on the line of scrimmage. Guys, quite simply, I just think that SMU is the better football team here. They've been the more consistent football team. Clemson has kind of sputtered and spat down the stretch here. The thing that is playing in Clemson's favor, though, is they've been here before. They've won ACC titles. They've won national championships. They know what it's like to be on a stage like this. SMU just won the American last year. They know what it's like to be on this stage too. Maybe not at this level, but they know what it's like to be on this stage too. And I think the Mustangs, as 2.5-point favorites, are going to go into Charlotte and they will beat the Clemson Tigers, securing a first-round bye in the college football playoff. The newcomer to the Power Four wins the ACC. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Remember to play Tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.